Children, in this video I am going to explain you your last chapter, the Comet Part 2. The lesson Comet Part 2 is in continuation of the previous lesson named the Comet Part 1. It gives us a description of the meeting and how the experts came to a solution. It describes how Indrani Devi gave in to her superstitions and organized a yajna to get rid of the ill luck associated with the passing of comet Datta. Once the comet passes away peacefully, Indrani Devi attributes it to her yajna or yagya, which Dattada refused to perform. Okay, so let's begin this chapter. It was around 1 a.m. when Sir John dropped James at his hotel off Regent Street after they finished discussing the details about the international conference. The streets were deserted. Deserted means nobody was there. But the sky was filled with stars that welcomed James when he looked at them from his room's window. Amidst these stars roamed Comet Datta, coming towards the earth. It was difficult for him to imagine the occurrence of a devastating collision on such a calm, quiet, and relaxing night. During that night, James even doubted his calculations for a minute because it pointed towards the occurrence of such unfortunate events. When James appeared for the conference, all of his doubts regarding Sir John's reach, power, and efficiency disappeared when he saw that professionals from all over the world had made their appearance on such short notice. All the experts named by Sir John, including astronomers, computer scientists, nuclear physicists, space technologists, biologists were present at the meeting. Even Sir John's special guest, Manoj Dutt, the man behind the discovery of the comet, was also there. The conference continued for a week under complete confidentiality. The professionals began by verifying James' calculations over and over again. They also checked it on the basis of their recent observations related to Comet Datta. All of them concluded that his results were right and the comet's collision with planet Earth was bound to happen. Even the probability of the comet only entering the Earth's atmosphere without a hit was very low. But if that happened, the loss of life would be minimized. However, the chances of its happening were so small that it became unavoidable to take an action to deviate Comet Datta. Once they concluded that they needed to do something to avoid the collision, the next question of what arose. Thus, they needed to come up with a course of action. It seemed impossible to implement defensive measures all over the world, like living in underground bunkers. Thus, the only option they were left with was to deviate, destroy, or neutralize the force of the comet. Therefore, they decided to slightly deviate Comet Datta from its path by asserting a push. After a lot of calculations and considerations, the experts concluded that they would require the bulk of destructive nuclear power available on Earth to carry on this huge task. According to them, an enormous nuclear explosion at the right time in the right direction would accomplish the task. In order to achieve this, they could place the nuclear equipment in a spaceship and direct it to stop the approaching comet and by making it explode using a remote control. Irrespective of whether they were successful in performing this or not, they all agreed that it should be done in complete secrecy. They drew a timetable for the operation and code named it as Project Light Brigade. Few of the important dates have been disclosed. October 10, releasing the spacecraft with the payload if the comet has not been destroyed naturally or has not deviated its path because of unknown or unpredicted reasons. Then November 15, the day when the spaceship filled with payload will collide with the comet and the payload will explode, thereby destroying or deviating the comet's path. And lastly, December 15th, the day on which the comet will hit the earth if it has not been set off by their operation. Otherwise, the comet would pass by safely from a close but safe distance. Whether their experiment would succeed or not was dependent upon the size of the comet. No one was able to estimate it, but they all hoped for it to not be very huge. During the week of the conference, Dattada and Sir John had developed a great bond with each other. Thus, when Dattada asked Sir John what he had to say regarding the success of their operation, Sir John told him honestly that he was not going to buy any Christmas presents till December 15, the day when the collision was predicted to happen. Dattada stayed for 2 more weeks after the conference and visited the British Isles and observatories as he exchanged views with amateur and professional astronomers. When he returned to India, he was received by a crowd consisting of friends, social leaders, students, and other uninvited people. He was covered with garlands and flooded with questions from the media. Thus, it became difficult for him to make his way to the car. This was the first part of this particular chapter. Now we will do the second part. When Dattada reached his home from the airport, he found another crowd assembled in a pandal. He looked at Indrani Devi with the expectation of an explanation. Indrani Devi was well aware that Dattada disliked large numbers of people gathered together. Thus, quite hesitantly, she told Dattada that she made arrangements for a yajna and had even called priests to shower their blessings on him. Dattada asked her the reason behind this yajna. He told her if it was because he had crossed the Indian borders, then she need not do it because it was no longer a taboo. Even otherwise, he specified how she knows about his opinion of these rituals. According to Dattada, these rituals lacked sense and were meaningless. Indrani Devi gave a look at her brother-in-law Sibaji Babu. Sibaji Babu coughed and offered Dattada an explanation behind the organization of this yajna. He mentioned how disturbed they have been since Dattada had discovered the comet. This was because they all believed that comets bring ill luck. Thus, their Guruji had advised a few rituals to bring peace and prevent the ill luck the comet was supposed to bring. Sibaji Babu told Dattada that they had been looking forward to his arrival so that he could perform the yajna. Now Dattada, trying to look calm from the outside, inquired about the advantages that the ceremony would result in. They told him that they have arranged it to eliminate any ill effects that the comet would have on Earth. Dattada could not contain himself any more and thus told them that all these were superstitions, that he did not believe in them. According to him, these myths were justified in old times when comets had not yet been studied by man. But now, when scientists have studied comets, they are just known for what they are and their movements are predicted by mathematical calculations. He further mentioned that it has been confirmed by statistical studies that there is no mutual connection between the arrival of a comet and calamities that happen on the earth. He remarked all of his efforts in explaining this to them are useless because they have never even shown interest in the elementary books on basic science. He was, however, interrupted by Sibaji Babu, who said that these yagya have been advised by their wise forefathers. Even after coming back from London, Dattada was in regular touch with Sir John through letters. Their bond had strengthened more because of their respect for each other's high moral and ethical behavior. Sir John liked Dattada's scientific viewpoints, whereas Dattada admired Sir John's discipline and planning. They never mentioned anything about Project Light Brigade while communicating. However, Sir John would slip in a few hard to comprehend hints about their progress. On the other hand, Comet Datta was roaming on the path which was well predicted by the experts. Even a tail got formed as it circled around the sun without turning into pieces or evaporating. Thus, it made it perfectly clear to the scientists involved in Project Light Brigade that the predicted threats of the hit are real. Somewhere near mid-October, Dattada received a letter from Sir John that talked about the specifications of the meeting of the Royal Astronomical Society, the unusually hot weather, the opening matches of the football tournament, and a recent by-election. However, in the midst of all these topics, Dattada was searching for a hidden hint on the progress of their experiment, which, when he found, said that the Project Light Brigade has begun, and now they shall all hope for the best. From this, Dattada was assured that the spacecraft had been launched right on time. With the launching of the spacecraft, a lot of doubts arose in Dattada's mind. He began worrying about their collision with each other at the right place and the accurate time. He felt anxious and doubted if the remote control detonation would work or if the huge nuclear spacecraft would fire. Despite all this going on in his head, he could not share it with anyone, and thus he had to participate and even pretend to be having fun in the puja ceremonies, Diwali celebrations, and other festivals. The only moment he found peace was when he was with Khoka, his 8-year-old grandchild, and secondly, when he gazed at the sky with Dibya, his 8-inch long telescope. Dattada was continuously keeping an eye on Comet Datta. That was now also clear to the naked eye. He received an urgent telex from a special messenger from the British Council who came to give it on a scooter on November 18. Even the telex operator in Calcutta was left amazed on seeing how urgent it was that he began thinking what was special about it. Reading the letter made Dattada lose his laziness and run to his favorite rasgulla shop. The message was by Sir John, and it said that he was going to buy Christmas presents for his friends and family on December 15th. As predicted, Comet Datta came nearest to the earth on December 15 at a distance of around 80,000 kilometers. Lots of people from all over the world saw it and adored it, but only a few knew how close they were to a complete destruction. It was only when the risk had passed and the comet had gone so far away that it was no longer visible that Dattada felt relieved to say to his wife, if she was relieved now that the comet had passed peacefully without causing any destruction. Indrani Devi agreed that there was no major disaster, but she mentioned that there were a lot of chances of there being one. She asked Dattada if he knows how it was prevented. Dattada was surprised on hearing what Indrani Devi said. Thus, he looked at her and wondered if she knew about the secret operation and how it was possible, because he had never even mentioned the project to her. So he decided to investigate carefully and told her that he didn't understand what she was trying to say. Indrani Devi told him that everything went on so smoothly because of the yajna they performed at the house. Dattada replied that he didn't perform the yajna. He asked her to remember how he had refused to be a part of it. Indrani Devi told him that she was well aware about this and that they found a way to perform it without Dattada's participation. Rather, she told him that Guruji came up with the idea that if he was reluctant to do it, it would also work if any of his successors did it. So, they decided to have Khoka, his grandson, to fill in for him. She was quite proud of emerging victorious, as she mentioned that the yajna bore fruit and how clever was their Guruji. Dattada imagined his 8-year-old grandson performing the rituals as per Guruji's instructions, saying mantras he didn't understand, pouring in ghee regularly into the fire and presenting flowers. Then, this picture was suddenly replaced by a group of scientists examining the problem, coming up with solutions and ways to implement them. For him, it was hard to accept that both these scenarios represented two distinct sides of the modern day world. He was well acquainted with the factors that divided the rich and poor, literate and illiterate, privileged and unprivileged. But it was difficult for him to comprehend the intensity of the gap between logic and superstitions. He asked himself if humans will ever be able to remove it, but unfortunately he did not know the answer. So this was the end of the Comet Part 2.